he would drag me to events at a very young age. I actually remember the first event I ever worked. I was probably 10 or 12 years old. And he went to the craft store and got me the tuxedo shirt, bow tie combo, you know, the kind that like, it was so thin you can like see through it. And he puts me in that, he takes me to the event, he puts me behind the busing station, and he says, okay, Anthony, scrape the plates here, put the forks here, put the plates, all the food goes in the trash, you good? I was like, yeah, I'm good, Dad, I can handle this. And I was like a bird's eye view of a catered event. It was a perfect atmosphere because most of the people there didn't even know who I was, and the people that did know who I was, they didn't even really care that I was there. And all of a sudden, I start to watch what happens as my dad goes off to do the event. And pretty soon, here comes this young 16-year-old girl, and she comes bawling in tears because my dad has just yelled at her about something. And the next thing I know, my dad and the captain of the event, they're getting into it, and finally the captain just says F off and walks off the job. And then, on top of that, after plate up's done, and the chefs are trying to clean up the kitchen, two of them get in a fist fight, literally, like in a fist fight in the kitchen. And I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm like, whoa, this is what catering's all about? I want no part of this, Dad. Like, no thank you. Here's the thing, my dad, his nickname was the Tornado. When he'd come into an event, it was like all hell broke loose. He'd start yelling at people, things would be thrown in the air. He's on a mission to get this thing done, and all of a sudden he like goes off to another area and you're just watching like people's hair is a little disheveled and like everything's all a little bit of a mess. And in his pursuit to provide these exceptional experiences and amazing events for our clients, he would run over the staff. And it was something that I saw that I actually just, it hurt me to my core to watch this happen, to watch my dad interact in this way and watch him build a company that was so dysfunctional from a culture standpoint. But one of the things that my dad did for me that I'm forever grateful is that we had a contract called the Parade of Homes. And it was a 30-day contract in the summer, and they would build 7-8 spec homes, and people would come throughout the course of the month, and we had the exclusive concessionaire contract there. And you know, at a young age, I was there pouring Pepsis, doing whatever Dad needed me to do. But as I got into high school, he started to give me and my friends more and more responsibility. Until one day he said, all right, you guys, you got 20% for your food costs, you got 25% for your labor costs, anything under that, you guys get to keep. And we're like, all right, we're gonna be rich. This is gonna be great. Well, we didn't make very much money that first year. But I will tell you, 3 years later, we had that thing so dialed down to a science, I could tell you what the deli paper cost, the slice of tomato, the piece of lettuce, the bun. I knew every inside out of how this business worked. And I knew that we had to hire cheap labor, which was basically our friends. So we asked all of our friends, hey, you want to come work here? You want to come hang out with us? And all of a sudden, we had a line of people begging to work with us because we had created this really fun, unique environment. You see, a bunch of high school kids at this concession stand. This was no ordinary concession stand. I mean, this was, we were bringing in ovens, grills, fryers. We'd have a portable walk-in cooler that we would set up for the month. And, you know, there was Hawaiian shirt Wednesday that you'd wear, Wacky Wednesday, we'd wear Hawaiian shirts, and there was the mullet count in the back, and if somebody came up with a mullet, you'd yell 1090 alert, and somebody would go make another tally mark on the mullet count, and we'd have awards and celebrations for the best cashier of the day and the best burger maker of the day, and we created this environment that was a lot of fun. And there was one day specifically that I'll never forget, and I was working the grill, and like my face is just caked in grease. And I look up, and we've got 5 cash registers. For those of you under 30, that's how we used to take money. And there's a line, 15 people deep at all 5 of these cash registers. And if you would have walked up to this stand, I think you would have been just kind of like jaw drop in awe. Because what you would have seen is about 20 high school teenagers working simultaneously like this perfect symphony, in and out, serving food, getting it up there. And every single one of them had a smile on their face. And it was like time stood still for just a minute for me, and as I watched this happening. And it was at that moment that I realized fun and productivity were not two separate things. That actually when you're having fun, you can be more productive. And yeah, amen, I love it. Yeah, we've got some audience participation here. And that has formulated my whole belief for the rest of my career, because I also had the opportunity to work in some other environments where that wasn't the norm. See, I assumed that everybody knew that and everybody understand that. And then you go to a company and it's like, nope, you can't do that. Nope, that's not allowed. Nope, you can't do that. When it's really in the pursuit of making something great. And so I share that story because when my wife April and I purchased the business from my father 13 years ago, we had one thing that we wanted to do. We wanted to create a great place to work. We didn't care about being the biggest catering company in Denver. We didn't care about winning a bunch of awards. We didn't care about anything else other than let's create a great place to work. And if we create a great place to work, then we're gonna have a lot more fun, we're gonna be happier, and we're gonna enjoy what we're doing. And so we asked our team, why do you work at Footers? What's important to you? My dad didn't have a mission statement. He didn't have values. None of that. My dad was just focused on catering. And I tell a lot of stories about my dad, but my dad was a brilliant, consummate host when it comes. He still has a restaurant. He has a restaurant now. I mean, he's still at it. He absolutely loves it. And I warn people, don't go to my dad's restaurant if you know him for date night, because it quickly becomes a party of three, where he pulls up a chair and sits down and like joins and tells stories, and he's charismatic and he's wonderful. But we wanted to create something different. And so we asked our team, why do you work at Footers? Why are you here? What's important to you? And 3 things came up. And my apologies to anyone who has a long, scripty mission statement that sits on your wall. We strive to be the best at blah, 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 blah. And no one really knows what it is, and no one really remembers it. And you have it because you have to have it. See, at Footers, I wanted to create a 3-bullet mission statement that every single person on our team would remember and would know, and that we would actually live by. I believe in the rule of 3 is that you can remember 3 things, and so that's why we came up with this. Love what you do, make it better every day, and create exceptional experiences for our clients and their guests. Those are our three key things that we continue to talk about every single day at Footers, and it is at the root of what has made us successful as a company. As we have grown and where we are today, it is beyond my wildest dreams of what we could have accomplished. I never thought we could be where we are today, because I probably underestimated that when we pour into our people, they pour into our clients. And in an industry where we have been so focused and so told for years, serve the guests, serve the guests, serve the guests, I think we need to serve our people, serve our people, serve our people, and then they will serve the guests. This is our fairly new home. I guess we've been there for 2 years, so I can't call it new home anymore. Called Social Capital. We purchased this building in December of 2019. Just let that sink in for a minute. And I share this because it was one of the most powerful things for us, because we had to make a decision. And at the depths of where I was during the pandemic and what are we going to do, I never imagined that my business could go from 100 to 0 overnight. Just, you can't do events. We do full service events, that's what we do. We don't do drop off, we do events. You can't do events anymore. And you get into that victim mode, like why us, why our industry, why is this happening, this sucks, and you start to feel sorry for yourself. And there was a moment where we had to decide, what are we going to do with this building? We've got this building, are we going to move forward and build it out? Or are we going to call it quits? And when we had to own that decision, it was a very powerful moment for us. Because we could close up shop, sell what was left of our business, sell the building, and be done. If we believed that this would fundamentally change gatherings and that we would no longer come together and celebrate in groups. But as April and I talked, we said, if we believe that human nature wants to celebrate together, that we want to be in the same room, that we want to have parties and events, and that one day they will return, then now is as good a time as ever to build this out. So we doubled down, we went and borrowed more money, and we built out Social Capital. Social Capital, the name, is a little bit of a play on what's made us successful. It's spelled with an OL as a capital building for social events. But Social Capital with an AL is all about what's created with people working together with a shared mission and common values. And that's so much of what's made us successful at Footers. It's a bit of an homage to that. And so we now operate out of this 40,000 square foot facility where we do over 600 events a year, and then also have our event space where we can host events as well. Thank you. I love the interaction here. So I also want to share with you our sister company, MIBE. Some of you saw my pin. What's MIBE? What's MIBE? What is that all about? MIBE, it's the acronym for Make It Better Every Day. Remember I told you the middle part of our mission statement, make it better every day? Well, our team came up with this acronym, because one day I walked into the kitchen and they said, hey, Anthony, did you see the MIBE that Bryce did over there? And I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Well, she did this. I was like, yeah, but MIBE, what is that? She made it better. And now if you walk through the building at Footers, you'll hear people say, oh, that's a good MIBE. Oh, you MIBE'd that. So it is now part of our vernacular. But when we had opportunity to create a sister company, it was only natural that we called it MIBE. And through this company, we get to do what I am truly passionate about, which is help companies in the hospitality industry be intentional about the culture they're creating, and developing their leaders through heart leadership. So I'm going to chat a little bit about that today and share some of the concepts of how we've gotten to where we are today. All right. Anyone know Bill Lumbergh? Again, I'm just dreading the day when no one laughs at Bill Lumbergh, that no one knows who he is. Bill Lumbergh, if you don't know, Office Space, just check it out. All right, so I want to ask a question. I want you to think about a great leader that you've had, a really amazing leader. And I know you're eating dinner, so I'm not going to make you write it down, but think in your head of a really great leader that you've had in your life. Somebody that really had a truly great impact on you. Somebody that when you were driving into work, you were excited to go see them because you knew they were going to bring out the best in you. Now I want you to do the flip side and think about one of the worst leaders you've ever had. A terrible boss. Think about who that was. As you were driving to work, you dreaded going in. You did everything you could to avoid where their office was so you didn't have to interact with them. Now I want you to think about why those two people were great and why they were terrible. Was it number one, their IQ, how smart they were, their intellect, how much knowledge they had? Was it number two, their technical expertise, how good they were at their job, what a great chef they were? What a great, the skill set that they had? Or was it number three, their emotional intelligence, their EQ, how they made you feel? When you came in, were they that person, like I said, that built you up, that believed in you, that gave you the confidence to be your best self? Or were they the person that degraded you, that yelled at you, that micromanaged you? I do this exercise courtesy of a mentor of mine named Tommy Spalding. And what we do is we have everybody write on a Post-it note who their great boss is, who their bad boss is. And then we have you come up to a poster sheet and have you put them up there of was it IQ, was it TQ, or was it EQ? And I've done this with hundreds of people. And every time, this is what happens. You see, we spend so much time in school learning all this intellect, all this great knowledge, right? And then as we get into our career, we start to really focus, maybe in college or just after, on the technical expertise and the technical acumen of what our job entails. But what we don't focus on enough is what really matters, and that's the emotional intelligence piece. And when I talk about heart leadership, it is all centered around this idea of emotional intelligence and how much can you respond to the needs of your people in a way that you understand your own emotions, you understand their emotions, that you can regulate those two and you can understand how to build relationships with that. At MIBE, we have 4 convictions. And the whole culture conversation, I'm on a mission, to bring the culture conversation away from ping pong tables and beer fridges. Like that's fun and cute, and thank you, tech industry, for doing that for us. But I don't think that's what true culture is all about. It's part of it, and there's some color in it that we can add to it. But at its core, my belief that culture is much more about, are you putting people in jobs where they are utilizing their strengths? They are doing the things that they are world class at. Are you infusing purpose into their job? Do they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves and that there's meaning behind the work that they're doing? And are they doing it with people that they love, trust, and respect? Love, trust, and respect. If we're doing those 3 things, to me, that is what great culture, the foundation of great culture, is built upon. Yes, I love it. I feel like I'm a little bit of church here. Amen. But if we think about that, and that's the core, then we can add the ancillary fun things. And I don't want to downplay the fun things too much because I think it adds personality to organizations. But at the core, these are the things that truly drive culture. And for us, when we look back, it's what's made us successful at Footers. We have 4 convictions that we talk about, that they're keys to building that. They're lead, love, MIBE, and vibe, and I'm going to share some stories about each one of those. Lead. Value people for more than the job they do. Value people for more than the job they do. In the service industry, in most hospitality companies, the number 1 expense is people. You look on that P&L statement, you can find all sorts of categories related to labor, culinary labor, sales labor, event decor labor. There's all kinds of labor that you'll find. But on that balance sheet, you never see anything that's looked at as an asset. And as companies get larger and larger, they start to look at the numbers, and they stop looking at the people. And I think we have to reverse that a little bit. See, I don't think when I come into work that all of a sudden I open that door and personal Anthony stays outside and professional Anthony is here and ready for the day. Like, I just don't think that happens. If my personal life is in shambles, it's probably going to impact how I show up at work. And if I'm really struggling at work, it's probably going to impact how I show up at home. So I think we need to cut this notion about we got to keep work and personal lives separate and keep your 9 to 5 separate from your 5 to 9. Like, no, I just don't believe in that. I think we have to invite the whole person to come to work and respond to what each person needs at each individual time. This is a picture of Carrie Dismuke. Carrie Dismuke worked for us for over 10 years. And this is Carrie with her husband. After she had her first baby, 1 month after she came back from maternity leave, I was sitting in a one-to-one. We have what we call one-to-ones with all of our team members. See, I don't like annual reviews. I think they're a waste of time. Again, my apologies to anyone who subscribes and loves your annual review. I just don't know how I'm going to tell you what a great job or terrible job you did in February now that we're here in December. Like, great, thanks for the feedback, Anthony. I think you have to meet with people on a consistent basis. People crave feedback. And so our feedback system is a monthly one-to-one where you have at least an hour with your direct report every single month at Footers. And in these one-to-ones, everything's on the table. We want to help develop you as a person. So sometimes we're talking about personal things. Sometimes we're talking about work things. And in this particular one-to-one, as I sat down with Carrie, she shared with me that her husband had been diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. 1 month after coming back from maternity leave. Brand new baby, and now her husband's in the fight of his life. You think that's going to impact how Carrie shows up at work? Yeah, probably. And I was in shock. I said, Carrie, what do you need? How can we help you? What can we do for you? And she said, well, here's the thing. I've thought about this, and I don't want to quit working. I want to come here because this is my family. These are the people that I want to be around, and I need a support system outside of my home life because at home I have to be the strong person for our family. And I need a place where I can go and be supported. And I said, okay, great, we can do that, but what else what do you need from us? She's like, here's my only thing that I want to request. I want to go to every single one of his doctors and treatment appointments. And this is pre-COVID when remote work wasn't like a norm. And I was like, yeah, we can do that for you, no problem. And at the end of his treatment, Jonathan's healthy and in remission, and it's a happy story. But at the end of his treatment, the nurses said to her, you must be a stay-at-home mom. And she said, well, no, why do you ask? They're like, well, we've never had somebody who works come to every single appointment. And I share this story not to pat myself on the back. I share this story because I had no idea that what we were doing was outside of the norm. See, most companies don't respond that way. They say, are you functioning? Can you help? Can you produce something? If you can, great. And if not, then you can't work here. You can't get a paycheck anymore. Now, this isn't about not getting work done. Because the story is whether Carrie wasn't as successful or wasn't able to get all of her work done. Yes, there were a number of days. But you know what happened? Every single person on our team picked up the slack for Carrie because they loved Carrie and they wanted to make sure to support her. And you know what happened when Carrie came back and this was passed? She was the first person to jump in and help the next person when they needed support. And it created this symbiotic relationship of people helping one another. And instead of looking at it as a short term, you can't do work right now, so we don't have work for you, we created this atmosphere where people can have that opportunity to be themselves and to get support when they need that support. We do a lunch and learn once a month. Somebody gets up, does their origin story at lunch. We do lunch every day for our team. Everybody gets together and has a family meal. There's a rule, you don't take lunch back to your desk. It's sales, it's our culinary team, it's our warehouse team, everybody gets together and we have lunch. 15, 20 minutes that we're all together eating around a table together. And so we think about how do we activate culture at work? A lot of times we don't want to go do something extra. We have families, we have kids, we have other responsibilities. We don't always want to be having to do something after work. And so how do you activate different things that you do during the day? Well, we thought about this lunch. We have everybody's attention, everybody's here. How do we make sure that we're building those relationships and valuing our people? Well, once a month, like I said, they get up, do an origin story, 15 minutes, who they are, where they're from. It's one of the most popular days for lunch. Like, people don't schedule meetings because they want to be there for the lunch and learns. We have our annual Thanksgiving Thankfuls tradition. And this is a tradition that one of our team members, I probably took this for granted until she said, that's my favorite thing that we do here. And so now it is part of the non-traditional benefits chart at Footers Catering, that if you're at a certain level, you get to be part of the Thanksgiving Thankfuls tradition. And all it is we ask you to write down one thing you're thankful for everyone else on the management team. We have 30 people, 30 things that one per each person. And we compile that in April. My wife and I, we put it together in some kind of cool format. Maybe it's a calendar or in a frame, something along those lines. And then we have a whole celebration where we read those to one another, where somebody else reads all of the things that they're thankful for you. And you get to just absorb it and hear that. That's valuing people for more than the job they do. This is one of our chefs, Stevie. She was training to be an instructor for one of the climbing gym machines. And in order to get her certificate to teach classes at this gym, she had to do a certain number of practice classes. And so the chefs in the kitchen rallied around her and said, well, we can come bring you your test case. We'll do that. So these flyers all of a sudden are popping up at Footers. And there's 3-4 classes that people are going to, attending to help our chef do what her passion project is. These are the things that understanding what are people's interests outside of work. How do you infuse that? Not just in your workplace, but in your communities. I know a lot of you are solopreneurs, and so as I talk about a lot of these things, yes, I'm showing you through the lens of Footers Catering and our team that we have, but this can be done at any level, whether you have one person or whether you have 500. These concepts apply across the board. Number 2, love. Open your heart to be authentic, genuine, and vulnerable. Open your heart to be authentic, genuine, and vulnerable. When I talk about vulnerability, I'm not talking about coming to work and sharing your deepest and darkest secrets. I want to make it clear that when I'm talking about personal and professional and how the blending of that, it's not that you come to work and share all the embarrassing things that you did on the weekend. It's not necessarily about that. But it is about when you come to work, can you be authentic? Can you be vulnerable in sharing where your limitations are? What you're capable of, what you're not capable of. See, most environments frown upon that, and we put on this armor, and we have to come to work and feel like we have something to prove. And if something does go wrong, we got to sweep that under the rug or cover it up. But when we create an environment where people are willing to ask for help, we create an environment where more and more people can thrive. Go back to COVID for a minute. I don't know about any of you, but it was my first pandemic. We had to furlough all of our hourly team members. And there were a number of days where I had no idea what I was doing. And I was at a loss. And had I not had my executive team, there is no way we would be where we are today, getting through the pandemic. We had countless meetings, and there were a number of days where I was not at my best. I was frustrated, I was mad, I was angry. But I brought all of that to the team, and I would be up front and acknowledge that with them. Guys, I'm at a low today. I don't know where we should go from here. And in those moments, those were some of the most powerful moments because they rallied around one another. When we think about the fact that there's so many times where the leader is thought, oh, they have to have all the answers. Oh, you're in this position, you have to be the authority on this subject. But the most powerful leaders are very clear about what they know and what they don't know, and they don't pretend to know things that they don't. So when we got a chance to start doing events in the summer of 2020, when they opened up some restrictions in Denver, and we had a bunch of people calling us saying, Anthony, I want to get married. I want my daughter to get married in the backyard. We're going to put up a tent. Will you cater it? Yep, we will be there. We're going to figure out how to do that. We've got to bring in some kind of income here. And I looked at our team, and we didn't have any servers because we just had our core team that we were able to keep all of our managers. And I said, we're going out in the field, guys. And we had a couple of people that said, no, that's not for me. I didn't sign up for that. It's like, that's fine. That's okay. I respect that. But in order for our company to move forward, this is what we have to do. And so you'll see our controller that's up there that jumped in to help bus plates. We had, I think I was bartending that day. Dust off the old bartending skills, right? We had people in the warehouse that were coming to be chefs. We had people that were pitching in. And that takes a certain level of vulnerability to be able to come to that environment and do something, just whatever needs to be done. And in a lot of organizations, there's people that get to a certain point and say, I'm too good for that. I did that years ago, I don't do that anymore. But I think beautiful, beautiful organizations are made from people, when it is most needed, you pitch in wherever the company needs you. Yeah. I'm glad you can see that. There's Chip and Dan Heath wrote a book called The Power of Moments. And there's a quote in there that they have, be wary of the soul-sucking force of reasonableness. Be wary of the soul-sucking force of reasonableness. In our efforts to shield our vulnerability, we have this gravitational pull to the normal and to the average. And where they show the example in the book is they talk about that if we asked everybody in this room, we're going to all have ice cream, and we have to pick one flavor that we all agree on. And you're going to start, and somebody's going to say, cookie dough, I want cookies and cream, I want milk chocolate chip, I want sherbet, I want, everybody's going to have their different opinion. And at the end of the day, we probably all will only be able to agree on vanilla. But nobody really wanted vanilla as their first choice. Maybe a couple of you, sorry. Right? And so at Footers, we have this philosophy that anytime we do something, especially if it's an internal event, it's going to be a little bit outrageous. It's going to push people outside of their comfort zone. It's going to be something that people remember. And so years ago, our team said, we want to do a lip sync battle, Anthony. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, we want to do a lip sync battle. I was like, okay, is anyone going to participate? And they're like, yeah, I think they will. I was like, okay, fine, we'll do it. We had 20 people sign up for these like solo acts. And it was a blast, it was fun. And now this thing is like next level. Like, there are 3 teams that that compete in different categories. There's like the solo act, there's the Disney song, and they have to pick which songs they're gonna do. There's dress rehearsals now, there's costumes, there's props. It is like ridiculous next level. We invite our vendors to come be judges on this. So we have like an event planner or a rental company, they're like our celebrity judges at this event. And so this is a picture of 4 of our chefs and warehouse guys that got in leotards to do single ladies. While the singer, you can't see it, but the guy in the Santa hat actually has a leaf blower that he's like blowing her hair. Like, that's, my point in sharing this is because when you do something that is outrageous, people remember it. They're more willing to come back to it. They're a little intimidated at first. They're a little skeptical. I don't know, that seems embarrassing. I don't know if I want to do that. But all of a sudden, you create a safe place for people to be able to do that. Years ago, in the lip sync battle, we had a guy on our team, and he had wanted to do drag for a really long time. And the first time he ever performed in drag was at lip sync battle. And now he is he competes, he's a drag queen. But the fact that he started that at our lip sync battle is something that I don't take lightly. And that wouldn't have happened had we not had this safe environment to do something that was a little bit crazy. There's always more to learn and room to improve. See, we learned early on, we said, okay, we want to create a great place to work. Let's focus on our culture. We did that. Great, we have a great place to work. Now let's go back to catering. 3 months later, we're like, what happened to our culture? Where'd it go? See, culture isn't a project that you work on and put on the shelf and then go back to doing it. It's something you have to focus on every single day. Every single day. You either have a culture by design or you have a culture by default. All of you have culture, whether you're a one-person shop or whether you're 150-person company, you have a culture. The question is it a culture that you're proud of? Is it a culture that you want? And in order to do that, I think we have to think about a progressive improvement, that every single day, if we just focus on being a little bit better today than we were yesterday, a little bit better today than we were the next day, then all of a sudden we can look back where we were a year from now, and we can start to be embarrassed about who we were. You ever look at a picture of where you were 13, 14 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or maybe some events you were doing, and can you believe we used skirting? Can you believe we used to do this, right? Like, I've got some people with me. My dad held on to skirting for a really long time. We have a picture of him, and he's got this gold lame cummerbund, and he's sitting, he's on a buffet, just so proud behind it, and there's just kale all over it. And I'm like, Dad, now we actually put kale in the bowl and serve guests. Like, it's not just decor. My point is, when you make these small improvements over time, you don't notice it every day. But over time, you look back and you've made huge strides, you've made huge improvement. Plus, small incremental changes are much easier to digest. Wholesale changes that you come into an organization and say, okay, we're gonna change everything, like it's very difficult for that to happen and very difficult for it to take hold. But if we just make these small tweaks and keep improving, keep mibing it every single day, we make tremendous progress throughout the year. I want you to think about something you're extremely proud of. Like something you've accomplished that you can hang your hat on and say, I am really proud I did that. I cannot, that's something that Dorita just did the Final Four, right? Like, really proud of, right? Now raise your hand if it was easy to accomplish that. Right? The things in life that we are most proud of are not easy. And so we have to think about this work conversation, and everybody's been talking about, we gotta make work easier for people, we gotta make it easier for people. No, no, no. I think that's a bunch of BS. We don't need to make it easier for people, we need to make it meaningful. We need to challenge them because people want to be challenged. People want to do meaningful work. I asked my team, what's your favorite event of the year? 70% of them will say Book Lovers Ball. I said, Book Lovers Ball. That's like one of the hardest events we do. It is literally 650 guests. It's a plated dinner. It's on 3 different floors of the Denver Public Library. There's 6 different dining areas that all have different guest counts, different table settings, satellite kitchens for each of those. We cook all the food on the dock. It has to come up in a freight elevator and get dispersed to those 6 areas. This library is so massive that literally, like the first year we did this event, people like got lost in the stacks. Like it's all just like, now when you come in, you get a wristband that's like, you're in the blue section, buddy. You're in the red section. Like, you're in the green section. And the minute, like, the green wristband walks into the red area, they're like, no, 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 you're over there. Like, get out of here. But they love this event because they're so proud of it. It is one of the most difficult events we do. But they love it because it has meaning, because there's purpose behind it, and because it's something that they can brag about to their friends of, look what I accomplished. Look what I was able to do. This is Bryce. Bryce recently joined our team as our executive pastry chef a few months ago. And I'm going to share this with you because I think that this is the power of what takes place within an organization when we think about MIBES. She sent this email. This is 2 months after she started with our company. To continue the MIBE train that has been happening in the pastry department, there are a few bread MIBES happening. Starting this week, you'll see a small change in the focaccia size. The diagonal cut is something we have been rolling out on brownies, bars, and the Colorado Caprese focaccia. Now that our focaccia is baking so tall and fluffy, the full square looks a little wild on the salad plate. The new cut is more proportionate on the salads and in the bread baskets. Number 2, we are starting to encourage our event chefs to be more thoughtful with heating bread depending on the service style. 90% of the time, bread is heated, that goes into the basket, gets preset, cools back down for 20 minutes, and until the guests are seated. This causes the bread to dry out considerably and makes the final product worse. Pretty much the only time we should be sending out warm bread is served on a salad, or if the bread basket is served, not preset. The pastry department puts a lot of pride and effort into their bread production, so help you send out the best product possible. 3, the last update is that we're sending 1.5 pieces on all bread baskets moving forward, which should streamline service as they will get a minimum of 10 pieces per basket, aiming for 12 to look more full. Thanks for being so awesome, everyone. As always, if you have any questions or concerns about these, my inbox is open, or stop by my table at any time. Now, none of those are legendary changes. Cutting bread a different way, serving an extra piece, or the heating, like those aren't miraculous changes that are going to make a difference, big picture of what we're doing. But on the micro level, that is a powerful mentality for every single person in your organization. For somebody to come in 2 months and have that mentality of, how do I just keep making these small little tweaks that are going to continue to make it better? And the beauty is now she's even built on that and made it even better. It's really cool what can happen. We have a teamwork wheel at Footers, and I think all of you can think about the teamwork wheels that you have. We talk about 5 departments. We have our culinary team, our service team, our warehouse team, our sales team, and our financial and admin team. And what I talk about is the fact that if you put all of us together, we make a wheel. And if you take any one of those departments out, that wheel no longer goes. If we don't have a sales team, we don't have any parties to do. If we don't have a culinary team, there's no food to serve. If we don't have a warehouse team, there's no equipment that's clean, there's no trucks that are loaded. If we don't have a financial and admin team, bills aren't getting paid, clients aren't paying us, business licenses are lapsing. And if we don't have a service team, there's no one to serve it. So we have to understand that we all have different roles within this organization. We don't have the same roles, we have different roles, but they are all equally important to creating what we create. And each of you in your communities, whether you're an event planner, whether you're a florist, whether you're a DJ, you've got teamwork wheels. On an event, that teamwork wheel may get even bigger. But the thing is, when we start having friction between those departments, when those departments aren't working well together, when kitchen starts thinking I'm more important, nobody knows what I do here, I'm the most important person, and sales is like, nope, we're the most important people, no one would have a job if it wasn't for us, right? Like you've heard these things that start to creep into your organizations. What happens is you get cracks in the wheel, and the wheel still goes, but it's a bumpy ride, and no one wants that bumpy ride. So at Footers, we talk about this wheel constantly. Where do you fall in the wheel? Do you understand your place and how you are part of the wheel as a whole? We also talk about the general bigger purpose. There's two guys that were in our kitchen, and I walked over to one and I said, what are you doing? He said, chopping lettuce. He's like, we had this huge event, and like, he's literally got cases of lettuce, and he's just chop, 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 chop. There's another guy stood on the table doing the exact same thing. I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm making beautiful salads, Anthony. Are your people chopping lettuce, or are they making salads? Do they understand the purpose behind what they're doing, or are they just doing the task at hand? When we talk about the why and the bigger purpose, all of a sudden there's meaning to what we do. Meaning is what creates the environment where you come to work and you say, I am proud to be here. I love what I do. Yes, sir. All right, vibe. Work doesn't have to suck. Surround yourself with a kick-ass team. I think we all have a responsibility to protect the culture in our organizations. And there's a lot of people that tell me, Anthony, I don't hire or fire anybody. How am I responsible for who's on the team? None. I disagree with that. If you're part of an organization, every day what the behavior you tolerate, the behavior that you allow to take place, you are sending a message to the rest of the team. You're sending a message to yourself. You're sending a message to the owners of the company that you're okay with what's going on. And so if there's things that are happening, if there's people that aren't abiding by the culture, aren't part of the culture that you want to be part of, that you feel like the company should be creating, then it's up to you to say something about it, to speak up and do something. And if nothing happens, and you've done it over and over and over again, it may be time for you to find a new place to work. Or stop complaining about it, because you're putting your stamp on it every day you stay there, saying this is okay. I'm okay being part of this culture. You're part of creating whatever culture you are in, whether you're starting on day one or you've been there for 10 years. I'm a big proponent that we got to put people in the right seats. I have this performance culture matrix that some of you may have seen before. And what we think about, just on the quick, we have a more in-depth way to map your team on this chart. But if you just think about somebody on your team or somebody you work with, and 0 to 10, how great are they at their job? 0, they're terrible at their job. 10, they're brilliant at their job. And then you think about the same thing on culture. 0, they're a terrible cultural fit, or 10, they are a great cultural fit. And you get those two numbers and you can plot them up here and you see there's 4 quadrants. We don't see a lot of yellow. Yellow, the dots over here on the lower left, for all of you. These are people that aren't very good at their job, and no one really likes them because they're not a good cultural fit, so we can pretty easily get rid of them. They're easy to get rid of. The scary thing, though, is I am seeing more and more yellow dots within organizations because people are getting desperate for talent. They're getting desperate that anyone can fog a mirror. You can come into our organization. We need bodies. We have so much business, we just need people to work. And so we are letting more and more people that aren't qualified to be in our business, and on top of that, our terrible cultural fits into our organization. And the longer the yellow dots stay, the more you will run off the white dots. And the white dots are the people that you need to protect and hold on to with everything you have. Our blue dots, this is the lower right. These are people that everybody loves. loves them in your organization. They are fantastic. They are the cheerleaders. They are rah-rah. And they really, truly embody what the culture is that you want to create. But they aren't very good at their job. They're struggling. They're really struggling. And there's most people that would tell me, Anthony, they need to go. If they can't do the job, they can't be at the company. They're not providing value. They're not providing benefit. You can't have them there. I disagree with this. At Footers, we take our job descriptions and we are willing to dump them on their head. And I'll tell you what this looks like. Imagine that you have 3 main responsibilities in your job. You're really great at A, you're really good at B, and you're terrible at C. Okay? What do you think we're going to spend most of our time talking about? Probably, right? Why are you struggling with C? Why'd you screw this up again? Why'd you make this mistake? Why is this, right? And all of a sudden you start to feel awful about what you're doing when really 2/3 of your job, you're crushing it. You're doing an incredible job. But we're all talking about C because that's where you're struggling, that's where you need to improve. Why don't we rethink this and say, well, what if we took C off your plate? Why does the executive chef always have to do ordering? Like, maybe somebody else on our team could do ordering. And let's bring this responsibility over here and put it on your plate. It's not about just letting people not do as much work as they should. It's replacing it with something that they actually can be great at. And when we think about that, we move them from the blue dot to the white dot. And the white dots are the people that are great cultural fits, and they are rock stars. There are unicorns. We want to clone them. We want more of them. And what's most dangerous in every organization is our red dots. Our red dots are really good at their job. And they're so good at their job, they love to tell you how good they are at their job. This company wouldn't be where it is without me. You know that event the other day? I saved that. I made that happen. I bring in more revenue than anyone here. If I wasn't here, all those clients, they wouldn't be here, right? And they talk and talk and talk. And the sad thing is we start to believe them over time. But behind the scenes, there's manipulation that's taking place. See, they're not always jerks. There's some that are flagrant jerks, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot that are just behind the scenes over here saying, Anthony, hey, did you see what she did the other day? Can you believe that? She screwed that whole thing up. She's not even qualified. And then I come over here, I'm like, Harold, did you see what Anthony did over here? He didn't even know what he's doing. He shouldn't be here, right? And behind the scenes, there's gossip taking place. There's all this manipulation that just continues to prop them up into the position that they think they're in. I have held on to way too many red dots for way too long because I start to believe, how would we survive without them? No one could do it as good as they do it. We had a pastry chef years ago. His name was John. John was brilliant. I'd never had a complaint about any of his desserts. And he was even a team player. He'd go work a savory shift when we needed him to work a savory shift. But he was hot and cold. And to a point where our coordinators would not go back and talk to him. They were scared to go talk to him because they never knew if he was going to bite their head off, give them the cold shoulder, or maybe he'd help them with whatever dessert they needed. And the day we'd talk to John and we'd get a little bit better, and we'd talk to him and then he'd get a little bit better. And finally, when we got to the end of our rope, we said, sorry, John, your time here's done. We have to move on. And literally, I went into the kitchen after we had fired him, and he said, the culinary team said, the pastry wall has come down. And I said, he had literally built a wall of boxes and equipment and all kinds of stuff to wall his area off from the rest of the kitchen. That's physically he had done that to create such a divide from him and the rest of the company. And it was at that moment that I realized we had done our team a tremendous disservice by allowing him to stay for as long as we did. We hold on to red dots for way too long. And I got to tell you, every time I've let go of a red dot, we've found somebody even better to replace them with. So let go of that fear that we couldn't do it without the red dots. We either got to let them know you got to move over to be a white dot, or you got to go. We call it CDE, career development elsewhere. I also heard the other day somebody said, we promote them to guest. I was like, oh, that's good too. So we have what we call teal days. Teal, if you haven't noticed through some of the pictures, teal it's like 50 shades of teal at Footers. There's teal everywhere. But we have what we call our teal days, and our teal days are our busiest days where we basically need everybody working on those days. And it's like our controller goes and works events. I'll work a plate up line or bartend or wherever they need me. I'm there. I'm in on those days. And on this particular day, we had 5 different events across Denver, and they were all for like over 250 people, some large events. And what our team did is say, okay, how do we bond our team across these events? And so everybody got a teal bandana on that day, and each event had to take a picture at some point in the night. And the best picture among all the events would get an extra prize. And so this was the winning picture. And I know it's surround yourself with a kick-ass team. This looks more like a team that'll kick your ass. Like. But the ability to infuse fun on events, we provide a very high level of service. You know, we are part of some of the most special days in people's lives, and we are on the higher end of catering. I say that because we don't take what we do lightly. We take a lot of pride in really doing an incredible job, and at the same time, we have a lot of fun while we're doing it. When you create an environment like this, this picture is one of my favorite pictures because it is one of the most humbling things when I talk about this and I share this. 7 years ago, our team came to us and said, Anthony, will you organize a vacation for us? I said, what are you talking about? They're like, well, we'll pay for it, we just want you to organize it. I was like, you guys don't spend enough time together? You like want to go on vacation together? They're like, yeah. So I was like, all right. So we find this ridiculous deal to Cabo. We offer to pay a portion for anyone who wanted to go. And we had 20 people sign up, and we were like, oh boy. This might have been a terrible idea. 7 years later, it was one of the best ideas we could have ever had. Now, I do not recommend a vacation for everyone. It is not for every company, and it does not make sense for every company. A lot of what I talk about today, I hope you take inspiration from it and apply it to what's unique about your company. Don't just copy what we do, take what we do and figure out how it fits for your team. What do they value? What's their lip sync battle? What's their vacation? But the organic team building that takes place on this trip is something that I can't duplicate in any other way. We have people that go on this trip that have never been out of the country, never seen the ocean, never been on an airplane. The fact that this year we had 42 team members sign up to go on this trip is something that I am blown away by, that we have that many people that care so much about one another that they want to vacation together. And they pay their own money. Like we pay, you get a subsidy based on your level of employment, but no one gets more than half. So they're paying at least half the cost to go on this trip. And we have people that don't qualify for any subsidy, and they pay the whole amount because they just want to come. It is a very special thing that I don't take lightly, and I'm continue to be humbled the fact that we have a team that is so tight-knit. We have to be intentional about culture. We have 9 core values at Footers, and our acronym to remember those 9 core values is FAB Tigers: fun, awesomeness, balance, teamwork, innovation, growth, ethics, respect, and service. It's a lot of values. It may be a little too many values. If you're just starting values, I recommend 5 to 7, not 9. But we are so all in on FAB Tigers that we can't back off of that now. Literally, tigers are everywhere in our organization as a constant reminder for what are our values. We are talking about what those values mean. They aren't just words. We actually go to the effort to define what they mean and what are the behaviors that are in line with that value and what are the behaviors that are not in line with that value. But as I said, we have our core value awards where we give away 9 Tiger trophies for one person for each that best represents each of our 9 core values. We have the Fab Tigers Den in our facility that has all these tigers on the wall. There are tiger pictures. There's tigers on our vacation. Everybody had the tiger swimsuit day. I've never seen so many tiger swimsuits. It was like literally like it's next level. But the idea is that when we are intentional about this, you have a team that is truly focused. And I think values are one of the most critical things for an organization, but even more critical for individuals. Again, whether you're a solopreneur, what are your core values? And I don't think we have different values at work and different values at home. I think whatever our two true core values are, those carry with us in all aspects of our life. And when we get clear on those, we start to understand how they integrate with the company's values. They don't have to be the same. Family may be a core value of yours. Well, how do you bring family into work? Are you creating an atmosphere that feels like family at work? That's how you bring that core value to work that may exude maybe the teamwork value that your company is trying to promote. If we're intentional about this, then we have an opportunity to create the culture we want, the workplace that people can thrive in. So my wife and April and I went to dinner the other night, and we went to this restaurant, and it was the group that has opened this new restaurant. We love their other restaurants, so we're really excited to try it. And we go, and the food was good, service was good, the atmosphere was good, prices were fair, everything was good. And at the end of the meal, I looked at April, and I was like, I channeled 10 things I hate about you, where she says, I know you can be overwhelmed, and I know you can be underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed? And I said, that was whelming. And April was like, yeah, nothing was wrong with the meal. And she said, I don't think we ever need to go back. Nothing stood out, nothing was amazing. But the kicker is nothing was bad. There are no shortage of whelming experiences. And I'm not even talking about underwhelming experiences. That there's a plethora of those. I couldn't believe it. I was talking about tiger bathing suits. April had ordered this tiger bathing suit for the vacation, and like she's not bougie. She doesn't spend a lot on bathing suits, so she really stretched to spend a lot to like buy it from a really like luxury bathing suit company. And when it didn't arrive 2 days before, and she had done it like months in advance, when it still wasn't there 2 days before the trip, she sent an email. And she got an auto reply that says, we will respond within 10 business days. When did 10 business days become acceptable? Right? And like you gotta think that like people are putting up with it. Like they're still in business. I joke a lot of times, and my apologies if we have contractors in the room, but I'm still a little jaded from my experience building our facility out. Like, can you imagine if we operated our businesses like contractors? Like, I know you wanted the steak, but it didn't come in. So we're just gonna give you chicken. Yeah, try explaining that to the bride. No, we told you we'd do the event on Saturday, but I don't have a crew for you, so we're just gonna do it on Monday. Like, no, like, we don't have the same grace that other industries have. We are in a high pressure environment where we have to be part of live events, that we have one shot to make it great. And when we create average work environments, we get whelming experiences. See, I don't think these whelming experiences are created. I mean, when was the last time you like went to a hotel and the check-in person was really just terrible? And you thought to yourself, man, I bet they really love what they do. Right? Like, people who love what they do give great service. But we have to be intentional about that. And we can't just focus on, guys, let's create an exceptional experience. Let's not be whelming for our guests if we're being whelming with our team. If we're creating whelming work environments, how do we expect our team to create exceptional experiences for our clients and their guests? I reminded our team, because I think as business came roaring back, I don't know about many of you, but I know 2022 was a record year for Footers Catering. You get comfortable, right? There's more business than we can handle. We're saying no to a lot of business. And all of a sudden, maybe we lose our edge a little bit. Our back isn't up against the wall like it was. And we start to maybe cut a few corners or do things in the name of efficiency. But if you want to create awesome workplaces, it takes extra effort. You have to invest in it and be intentional about it. Manoush Shafiq said, in the past, jobs were about muscles. Now they're about brains. In the future, they'll be about heart. And if we think about this, it makes a lot of sense to me that for years it was the assembly line and it was agriculture. How much physical labor can somebody do? That's what their value is. When you can do physical labor, that's what we need. And now we've moved into the internet age where how much can you program? How smart are you? How can you use your brain to accomplish something that we need to accomplish? But AI, I don't think I get a newsletter that doesn't mention something about ChatGPT or some sort of AI. And AI is coming. But you know what AI and robots can't do? They can't have heart. And so this, to me, while it may be a competitive advantage right now for organizations that lead with their hearts, I think it's going to be mandatory in the future. Right now, there's still 2 jobs available for every 1 person that is looking for a job. And that is if you believe that all the people looking for a job actually want to work. 2 jobs available for every 1 person across the United States. And all we hear is headlines about this tech company doing layoffs, and this tech company, Facebook, Amazon, layoffs, layoffs, layoffs. You know, unemployment right now is at a 53-year low. 53-year low. All of the hiring in our industry, in hospitality, is far outweighing any cuts that are happening in the tech world. And so when I share this with you, and it's no secret, you don't need me to get up here to tell you that it's hard to find talent right now. Like, it is very difficult. But I think it's going to be that way for a while. People have a choice of where they want to work, and they're going to make that choice with their feet. And are you going to be an environment where people want to come work, a desired workplace, or are you going to be an environment where they're walking away from and they're going somewhere else? I have a deep belief that we all have a tremendous opportunity to have an incredible impact on the people in our lives. And whether you're in a leadership position or not, don't underestimate the fact that you are influencing the lives of other people. Whether it's your family, your friends, your vendors, your partners, the people you work with, the people you work for. And we all have the power to choose what kind of influence will we have. When somebody asks the people in your life who their best boss was, will it be your name that comes up? The great leader that they aspired to be like, that they saw, that they were part of an organization with. Will that be your name that they think of? Or will you be on the other side of that leader that was terrible, that they want to not emulate at all? I want to thank you for your time. This has been awesome to be here, and the hospitality in Houston is absolutely phenomenal. So, thank you. Oh. If you did like what you heard tonight, I write a weekly leadership message. I try to keep it to 2 minutes. I don't like to read long things. I put them off to the side, and then all of a sudden, you know, like I've got eight newsletters to catch up on, and I don't do it. So my message comes out on Wednesdays every week, and you get about 500 words, 2 minutes of inspiration. If you're interested in that, you can sign up at themibe.com. Hopefully that QR code works for you. If it doesn't, you can just go to themibe.com. We are also hosting our annual summit. It will be in January 21st through 23rd in Denver, where we are all focused on how do we put heart leadership into action. And so through MIBE, the programs that we have, if you're interested in learning more about those, I'd be happy to chat with you. But we have some time to ask some questions. Oh, good. Samantha, you got the mic. Perfect.
There you go. First question out the gate. What is your retention rate for employees?
Very high.
It shows. So,
you know, we're in the catering business, so if we have servers that stay with us 2 seasons, 3 seasons, like that's a success for us. We have, I mean, there's high school kids that work for us every summer and then go on to college, and then they come back to us because they love it so much, and they refer all their friends to come work with us as well. For our senior level team, one of the things I didn't mention in the trip, we do what's called our anniversary trips. So if you've been with us in a management position for 5 years, you get a culinary learning journey. And we basically, it's an all expenses paid trip. This one is, we pay for the whole thing for you and your significant other. And the first one we did was a cruise that was sponsored by Food and Wine Magazine to Alaska. And we, Ryan, Lindsay's husband, on the trip, you know, he's fat and happy, like, you know, drinking his beer, and he's like, hey, this is an every 5-year trip, right, boss? And like, Lindsay looks at him like with this scowl, like how, like a little embarrassed. And I was like, yeah, if you're still here in 5 years, sure, we'll do it again. Well, we're planning Lindsay's 15-year trip to Italy later this year, so. And we've done a number of 10-year trips, a lot of 5-year trips. Like we always go with them, April and I, so it's a tough job to have, but somebody's got to do it. Yeah, so very high.
I have a question about your leadership training.
Yes.
So you have all of these ideas and acronyms and all of these fabulous things. Did you wake up like that, or do you have professional leadership training?
So I am a lifelong student of leadership. I love leadership. It's been something I've been passionate about for years. I mentioned I grew up never wanting to be in catering. Like I actually wanted to be in sports. Like that's what I wanted to do. And there was one day my dad, I was sitting having breakfast with a mentor of mine. And I said, Bob, I miss my calling. And at the time I was working for my dad, but hadn't bought the business. And he said, what do you mean, Anthony? I said, well, I should have been a college basketball coach. He's like, well, why? And I was like, well, here's the thing. In college, you get to recruit people to come be part of your team. You don't draft them. Like they actually sign up to say, yeah, I want to come work there, but you got to convince them to come. And you know, I love competition and strategy and thinking about a game plan. And in college, they want to get to the next level so you can still help them grow. And once you get all these unique personalities together, you help them work together as a team. And they wear nice suits, and I like to wear nice suits too, so like it all works. And he looked at me and he said, Anthony, you have an opportunity to do all that right here at Footers. And it was at that moment that I completely changed my whole perspective, that my job wasn't to come to work and figure out what we were going to serve on this menu or how we were going to execute this event. My job was to come and put the right people in our team, give them the tools they need to be successful, help them work together as a team, scan the horizon, think about it. So I share this story because everyone has fun titles at Footers. Mine's the coach. Like my job is to be the coach of our organization, and it is what I'm truly passionate about, of how do we create this. So in terms of what we teach other people, you know, we weren't following a playbook all these years that we built this. It was just, this is what feels natural to us. This makes sense. We should do this. And a lot of reading and studying along the way and combining all of that. But as we looked back, we could say these were the 4 keys of what made us successful. And that's where we landed on the convictions of like, these are the real, like all these things we did, they kind of fall into this bucket, and this is why it worked. So I have a business degree, but not like official leadership training. But this is all just things that we've developed, and the cool thing is that we're constantly testing it and iterating it and working on it. So, thank you.
Hey, Anthony, tell everybody about the summit and the workshop and the dates. You mentioned January, and I think you...
Yeah, January 21st through 23rd. So we have started doing in-person events at our facility. Our Heart Leadership workshops are very centered around who do you want to be as a leader. We walk you through 2.5 days of content and curriculum that is really how are you going to show up as the best self, and how do you want to show up as a leader. And the beauty on this is so many people say, I'm quiet, I'm not charismatic, I'd never want to get up on stage or speak in front of people, I'm not a leader. I'm like, no. Everybody can be a leader. We lead in different ways, and we want to really open that door for people where they can come and realize who am I authentically as a leader. And there's a person on my team, and she is such a badass leader, and she is so quiet, but she is phenomenal at her job, and people go to her all the time to ask for her advice, her suggestions on things, but she is not the person that's going to get up in front of the room and say, all right, guys, we got to do this, and this is what we have to do. We can all lead differently. So that's what our Heart Leadership workshops focus on. And then our summit is our large annual gathering where we bring together some phenomenal speakers, and it's all about how do we put heart leadership into action. So thank you. January 21st through 23rd, 2024 is the summit. We will be doing some pop-up workshops later this year in different cities across the US, and if you sign up, you'll get information on all the things that we do.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a question for you regarding, like, as events people, it's very hard for us to slow down.
Yes.
And my organization is actually within the medical center. So it's the healthcare space, but we're in event planning, and we're planning events around the clock.
Yep.
I'm striving to get our team to a point where we take time for a wellness moment, for meditation, and I'm curious if there's anything like that that you roll out within your team or that you like to provide feedback on, because I think, again, just probably everybody in the room knows that we're used to just always being nonstop,
Yep.
going to bed, like thinking of our to-do list. And so I'm just trying to make it a priority for our team to really take time for ourselves, even if it's in the office, wherever it is. But it's so important nowadays to really be mindful of, mental health and all these things. And so, again, just want to hear your thoughts on that, and if there's anything that is a best practice for you and your team.
Yeah, and to me, this is where organizations differentiate themselves. Because what I see a lot of times is somebody says, we're focused on creating a great place to work. We're really, really doing that. And I'll give you an example. A caterer that I know I was working with, and they said, we're going to close down on Sundays. We're not going to take events on Sundays. And I was like, that's admirable. That sounds good. They're like, we want to give everybody Sundays off. We're giving them that day off. And so a few months later, I talked to one of the team members. I said, how's the Sundays off thing going? And they said, well, we've only had one Sunday off. Because the owner's friend calls and says, hey, my daughter's having a bridal shower. It's 30 people. Can you do it? Yeah, we can do that for you. And then something else pops up on the calendar, and oh yeah, we can do that. And we start making these exceptions. Now, I don't want to criticize a business for taking events. I understand, especially if you're an entrepreneur, there's a point where every piece of business is valuable. But if you're going to sit there and tell your team that we're going to value you and we're going to make this decision, and then you walk back on it, you have just eroded all of the trust. And so the companies that do make an effort and say, you know what, we're not going to do anything Monday or maybe it's Wednesday morning at 8 to 8:10. Be realistic. I can do 10 minutes a week, and we are going to have 10 minutes where we're going to do stretching or yoga or meditation or whatever it is, and commit to it. But don't commit to something that you can't hold up. And if like the Sunday thing, I think is a great idea. We'll put parameters in. If we get an event for $100,000, then we'll open up on Sunday. And I'll tell you what, every single person on your team will run through a wall to make that happen, because that's an event worth opening back up for, right? But not the 30-person, tea sandwiches that we have to go drop off, right? So to answer your question, you have to just be intentional about it. You have to schedule it. There's some businesses that can't bring everybody together at once. We'll do 2 time slots. Here's the time slot A, and here's the time slot B. Half of you need to come to one, the other half need to come to the other. So being intentional, and just, we have time for everything that we want to do. We make time for what's important.
Hi there. Oh, okay. It's been a long time since I've spoke on a microphone. Do you think that MIBE can be used to weed out poor leadership? I'm sure everybody has experienced, that star employee promoted to management and they're not personable and a really awful leader. Yeah. So do you think that this could be used to help that promotion process and kind of weed out those bad seeds?
100%. So our My Monthly program, we actually work with, you designate a facilitator from your team, and then we give you all the content, curriculum, everything you need to do a culture and leadership meeting with your team. And we actually work with that facilitator every month on a training, and then give you all of the things, and you go and do that meeting. And the beauty is, what this does is it becomes very clear who's on board and who's not. Because you all of a sudden are outlining, hey, here's the behaviors that we're going to tolerate. Here's the culture we want to create. And you'll get some people that are like, I don't know about that. That doesn't sound fun. Who's moving my cheese? I don't know. And pretty soon, they're left out in the cold, and they have a choice to make of either you better get on board or get off the boat. So yes, when you start getting very clear on what culture you want, it shines a bright light on the people that are not part of it. And they will do everything they can to hold on to what it used to be. People ask all the time, like, shifting the culture from how your dad had it to where we are, like, how did you do that? That seems really, yeah, it is really hard to do. And it's like, if you can imagine you got 10 people that are we need to push a boulder up the hill, and you got like 3 people pushing the boulder, and you got 5 people standing around, and you got 2 people that are actually like pulling the boulder the other way. Right? Like, you have to start to say, okay, I need you to help me push. Can you help me push? And all of a sudden you get 7, 8 people pushing, and maybe one person's holding it back and one person's not doing anything. Well, that's gonna get really uncomfortable for the person trying to pull back when 8 people are pushing it up, and 9 people now. And they either have to say, okay, I'll help push, or I'm gonna go. But you have to create that momentum.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Anthony.
You all have been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed their dinner. Let's give them another round of applause.